Punt.
And I'm Hugh Dennis.
With us are Susie Ruffle, Lou Kempner, Pippa Evans and James Acaster. And this is...
The Noel Show!
Thank you very much. And so this momentous year draws to a close. It's very interesting to look at Oxford Dictionary's choice of words of the year because it provides an amazing snapshot of an era. They do go out of date so quickly. If you look at the list for 2009, for example, one of the most popular words was unfriend.
Which is ironic because that's exactly what Britain voted to do this year. 2009 was only 7 years ago, but it was a far more innocent time. Where the defining word of 2016 is post-truth, the defining word of 2009 was...
simples.
You know, as in...
We hack American election, get head off ExxonMobil, made Secretary of State, get sanctions lifted. Simples.
Other terms on the list include...
alt-right.
The hip, modern, rebranded term for...
Nazi.
Yes. Except where Hitler sat in a prison and wrote a book about the German political class stabbing the people in the back, the alt-right sit in their mum's spare room writing internet posts about how Ghostbusters shouldn't have been remade with girls, and now boycotting the new Star Wars film because they think it's anti-Trump. Now, that's not an aspect of Star Wars I've ever noticed myself.
Lord Vader, we believe plans for the Death Star may have fallen into rebel hands.
Okay, let me tell you something about those plans. It's a fake story, okay? Our systems were not hacked. Those plans were not leaked. I don't believe anything these droids say.
But our intelligence briefing shows that...
I don't need intelligence briefings. I have the Force, and I use that. We're going to build a Death Star. It will be a beautiful Death Star. It will be the best Death Star.
Another word on the list is...
Brexiteer.
Yes, or Brexiteer, but most people plump for Brexiteer, as in Three Musketeers, as in...
Withdrawal for one and one for withdrawal.
And no D'Artagnan, because he's obviously French and can no longer be guaranteed a Musketeer work permit. Of course, here in Britain, we stick to tradition. We voted to return to 1973 in a referendum so vaguely thought out we're having to ask a court what it actually meant. And right now, the Supreme Court is deliberating the Article 50 decision. Of course, there won't be a verdict for a bit, as the Supreme Court consists of 11 lords, and it's Christmas, and they're busy a-leaping for the next... 8 days or so. It is actually, of course, 10 lords and a lady.
Yeah, but on a majority verdict, we decided the joke wouldn't work if we mentioned that. Anyway, what else happened? Britain introduced a new £5 note, which proved controversial.
Yes, mainly because it's only worth £4.50 since June the 23rd. We also had a good year at the Olympics in Rio.
Yeah, in spite of the threat of the Zika virus. Loads of world records were broken. It's amazing how fast athletes will run when they're being pursued by a mosquito.
But for global implications, the biggest story was the American election. Donald Trump was too busy this week to bother explaining how he's going to divest all his business interests, but he did find time to meet Kanye West, who was so impressed with his new commander-in-chief that he's releasing a new version of one of his biggest hits, Higher, Faster, Stronger, Bigger. But many, of course, are not impressed and many are worried. But hey, fortunately, it's Christmas.
It is, and you know that because every time you turn the telly on, they're advertising an album by Michael Ball and Alfie Boe. And I didn't listen properly, but it's one of those albums that seems to come out every year.
New for this Christmas. Now that's what I call Mum's present. 20 classic songs she's already got on similar CDs, sung by men she likes off the telly. Featuring David Attenborough.
Near, far, wherever you are, I know that my heart will go on.
Every mum's tea time favourite, Alexander Armstrong.
Hello. Is it me you're looking for? Is a good question, but sadly not a pointless answer.
And the golden voice of Andy Murray.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. In fact, I'm delighted.
And many, many more. Now, that's what I call Mum's Present is available from all good music stores or that petrol station halfway to your parents' house where you get the flowers. For just $12.99, but you can take the sticker off easily. Get it now, or it'll have to be Il Divo again. An undiscussed seasonal aspect of the whole Brexit debate is, of course, when we leave Europe, are we going to remain part of the common Santa?
Yes. At the moment, the whole of Europe uses the single Santa, which emerged after decades of negotiation to bring together Germanic, Scandinavian, Christian and New World elements of Christmas Eve folklore into one, based on the three fundamental principles of flying reindeer, chimney-based delivery and elf-based manufacturing. Now, however, some hardliners are calling for a Santa exit, or Sexit. Jacob Rees-Mogg said,
What we have now is not the Father Christmas we signed up to in the 19th century, where I still live.
And Michael Gove said,
We have to take back control. We want British presents for British children, delivered by a British Father Christmas, pulled by a suitably qualified Scandinavian reindeer admitted under a point system or the strict understanding that they will return to Norway by Boxing Day or face penalties.
the country divided into two sides, Christmas Remain and Christmas Leave, who proposed ditching all continental elements and animals. In future, Father Christmas, in a white transit van pulled by shire horses, would bring presents made by a workforce of Cornish piskies and garden gnomes, which he would deliver the proper British way, by pushing a note through the letterbox saying,
I tried to deliver, but you were out.
and insisting you drive to the depot to pick them up. Soon it was realised that, freed of the restrictions of the common Santa, Britain's version would be able to renegotiate crucial elements, seeking sponsorship, for example.
Richard Branson has made a bid to run the entire Christmas season, suggesting he plays Santa himself and renaming the whole festival Virgin Birth.
But how would the nation actually go about disentangling itself from international Father Christmas conventions? The only way was to invoke the so-called Santa Claus 50, a little-known article of the original treaty that established the character. And then came the vote.
In a shock result, voters have decided by 52 to 48% that they want to abandon the common Santa. Remain campaigners were distraught, but Nigel Farage told them,
"You better not pout. You better not cry. You better not go to court. I'm telling you why. Because if you do, then you'll keep seeing me on the telly."
Do you know, that might even be worth it. Thank you very much. Please welcome to the Now Show, Susie Ruffle.
Hello! This week there was a new plan for Britons to retain the right to live and work in the EU, but for a fee. And this has won the backing of the European chief Brexit negotiator, Geir Verhofstadt. Obviously, not everybody is pleased about it. Jane Aid, director of Get Britain Out campaign, told The Independent,
"This is an outrage. The EU is now attempting to divide the great British public."
No, Jane, calling a referendum divided the great British public. Although I'm starting to wonder how much we can trust the great British public, seeing as 6.4 million of them voted in the X Factor final on Saturday. Just to a Radio 4 audience, the X Factor is a singing competition where the best singer gets voted out at around week 4. Think of the Proms, but if it was set in Lidl. The problem is, with Brexit, things have started to get awkward. Basically, we have dumped Europe and they have not taken it well. With the Leave voters saying,
I'm sorry it didn't work out, but you're going to have to accept that it's over.
while the Remainers,
Come on, don't throw this away. We've been together for decades. Surely we can get through this. Think of the children.
So is that the case? Is Europe our ex now? We're going to have to avoid them at a party, talk about the weather, ask after their family? Look, I, for one, know exactly how Europe feels. I've been dumped, and it hurts. She left me, and you can rank your breakups between 0 and Adele. And it actually got so bad that I needed my mum. I needed to go home. I'm 30 now, but sometimes you just need your mum. I went home to Portsmouth, where she lives, and I cried the whole way through the night while I was driving. And I got to my mum's house. She was there waiting for me to sort of sew me back together, and she took one look at me, tears streaming down my face. I was a mess. She went, "Oh, my God, my baby, my darling, my princess, my angel, my sweetheart, my baby, my angel girl, my darling girl, my princess girl, my angel. How can anyone do this? Look at you. You're amazing. You're beautiful. You're my princess. You're my angel. You're my darling. Do you think it's because you're so selfish?" Thank you, Mum. But she did give me some sage advice, which was, if she don't want you, she ain't worth it. If it's over, it's over. What I think we need is a clean Brexit breakup. To make matters worse, the government is making a whole meal out of this Brexit thing, and now the bill's arrived and we can't really work out what we've ordered. And now this proposal for an opt-in EU citizenship has made things even more confusing. But where would I go?
Susie, come to Spain. It's beautiful here. Enjoy our weather, eat our food, and take naps. Lots of naps.
Spain, you sound pretty good.
Susie, Italy is the place for you. The weather is amazing. We want to take over your clothes and soak in the sun. The lakes are so clear, you just want to take off your clothes and dive in. And the food is so good. You just want to...
Take off my clothes?
Exactly, yeah.
I'm not sure I'm body confident enough to live in Italy.
You should come to Germany. Everything always runs on time and we have excellent motor cars.
This bit was mainly just about stereotypes. But if anything, this is even more confusing for me now. And we're just as bad. Of course we are. Britain's got its ups and downs. You've got to take the good with the bad. You can't just take the best bits. It's nationality, not a tin of quality streets. The EU plans to give rail cards to 18-year-olds so they're able to travel all over the continent. Imagine that, Britain. A rail card that enables you to travel. Even if we decide what we want the terms of leaving to be, I can't imagine how all 27 of the EU states are going to agree on them. I've got 25 first cousins, and we can't even agree on Nan's Christmas present. No, Sarah, she's already got a dressing gown. We've just said to Europe, it's not me, it's you, and now we are arguing on how to divide our stuff.
We're keeping music. We let you borrow it and you broke it. Eurovision.
I feel like Britain and the EU are on a break, and that's tough. What I am trying to say is Britain and the EU are the Ross and Rachel of the world.
We were on a break!
We need to stop holding on to hope if we're going to work it out. And I know this is hard. I've tried to make relationships work before in the past. I've wanted her to love me and to be there for me, and I've wanted to make her love me, and I've wanted to be there and love her so much that she'd never, ever want to leave. Do you ever find yourself siding with Kathy Bates in Misery? I don't want to leave the EU, but I don't think the half-in, half-out policy is going to work either. I love being a European citizen, but maybe we just have to deal with it, that's it for now. I'm just hoping that in 5 years' time, Britain and Europe will bump into each other at a party and just decide to give it another go. Basically, what I'm saying is if my ex-girlfriend is listening, I'm still on the same number.
So, with Christmas nearly upon us, I'm sure we've all been doing our bit to get into the shops and keep the British economy afloat. But how important is Christmas to business? And what would happen if it was cancelled?
To find out, we've dragged an expert away from the shops and into the studio with us. Please welcome Financial Times correspondent and from Radio 4's More or Less, Tim Harford.
Hello, Tim. Hello. Thank you for coming. So, the news is full of... It's always full, isn't it, of how important Christmas is to the economy. Is it, actually?
I think if you make novelty crackers, it's probably a pretty big deal, but as far as the overall economy is concerned, it's not that big.
So why the endless stories about retail figures and all that sort of thing?
Well, a particular business is nevertheless still dependent on Christmas. So they've been paying rent all year, possibly losing money slowly all year, and they're hoping to make it up over the last few weeks. But just because it's important for a particular store, John Lewis or manufacturers of novelty golf-related memorabilia or whatever it is, it doesn't mean it's actually a big deal for the economy as a whole. It's not.
And does it, with your mention of, novelty golf-related memorabilia, it seems to me that Christmas isn't important for most spending then, but it is important for manufacturers of tat.
Yeah.
Is that how it, is it? Is that how it works?
Well, there is an economist in the States called Joel Waldfogel who has measured what he calls the deadweight loss of Christmas. And the deadweight loss of Christmas is basically made up of two things. It's people being given gifts that nobody would ever want to receive, plus people being given gifts that some people might want to receive, but they don't. You've already got the album or whatever. It's not an appropriate gift. And Waldfogel reckons that maybe 20% of Christmas spending is just completely wasted, and that would be maybe £2 billion. People would run the NHS for a week. It's quite a lot of money.
If Christmas didn't exist, right, if it wasn't there for commercial purposes, retailers presumably would invent other things. So Black Friday is just another kind of buying and selling opportunity, isn't it?
Retailers are endlessly inventive. The best one, I think, is Kurisa Su Niwa Kentucky, which I'm sure you don't need me to explain, is...
You're quite right. That's Kentucky Fried Chicken in Japan, isn't it?
That is Christmas in Kentucky, and it is a Japanese phrase that is entirely manufactured by Kentucky Fried Chicken. So they have managed... This is genius. They managed to convince the Japanese, who basically don't celebrate Christmas anyway, that a great tradition would be to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken on Christmas Eve. And it's so popular that there are queues around the block in Tokyo. You can... This is true. You can pre-order your bargain bucket as early as October.
When they say on the news, this is a sort of slightly unrelated question, but they say things like, the Southern train strike has cost the economy X billion pounds. What does that mean?
I've never really understood why people feel obliged to justify anything, whether it's ending a strike or spending money on an obesity campaign or whatever it is, in terms of what it costs the economy. Because the economy is not really anything except us and what we do and what we value and what we spend, but particularly what we value. So rather than saying, oh, such and such a thing has cost the economy so much, I think we should maybe just say it's cost people. And for some reason, that doesn't seem to cut it in 2016. People don't matter, but the economy does.
What have you asked for Christmas this year?
To be honest, all I really want for Christmas is the light of joy in my children's gin. It's gin.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tim Harford.
And now, for the first time on the Now Show, would you please welcome a man who was born in the same town as me, James Acaster.
I'm going to tell you a Christmas tale tonight. First, I'd like to tell you about my favourite part of Christmas growing up. It was always the Christingle service. What is a Christingle? A Christingle is an orange, and it's got a red ribbon tied around it, and already that's weird, isn't it? Already, I'm not even halfway through this description yet. That's an orange with a red ribbon tied around it. There's never any excuse to tie a red ribbon around an orange. And unless you're going to fly somewhere on holiday and you want to check the orange in beforehand, so when it comes round on that conveyor belt, tell it apart from all the other oranges. It's got a red ribbon tied around it, and then we get 4 cocktail sticks, stick them in the top of the orange, then skewer raisins and dolly mixtures onto those, and then get a long, thin candle, drive that into the top of the orange, and light it, and then a small child carries that down the aisle of the church on Christmas Eve, and nobody questions it. All the different elements represent something different. The orange represents all the vitamin C in the world. And the ribbon represents fashion industry. The cocktail sticks represent competitive javelin. The sweets and the raisins represent regret. And the candle represents the dwindling popularity of wax museums. When I was a little boy, they gave me that Christingle, and before I even walked down the aisle, all I wanted to do, eat the raisins, eat the sweets. I had an agenda, sue me. I'm an adult now. I eat Christingles whenever I like. I don't even wait for Christmas. Do you think you get in trouble for eating popcorn in the cinema? When you eat a lit Christingle, people have something to say about it. Can you blow the candle out, please, sir? The candle's got to be lit, otherwise I can't see what I'm doing when I'm peeling the orange. Complain to Jesus, not me, ignorant. On to our Christmas tale. I promised it to you. Your Christmas tale begins like all Christmas tales do, in June. Our lead character was one Lindsay Lohan, actress, musician, Greek nightclub owner. Lindsay Lohan, she was sitting in a hotel room in London watching in horror as her TV told her which constituencies in the UK were leaving the European Union. Lohan was watching, getting upset. The town that tipped her over the edge was Kettering. Now, to be fair on Lindsay Lohan, Kettering, where Hugh and I were both born, she won't be the first person to be broken by Kettering, is what I'm trying to say. Pushed her over the edge, she couldn't take it, so she did what most people do these days, she tweeted. Lohan tweeted this: "Sorry, but hashtag Kettering, where are you?" Blam! Take that, Kettering, considering your battleship sunk, she got us. Where are you? And she used the hashtag Remain to let them know. She's very angry. People know I'm from Kettering, so they tweeted me saying, "What are you going to do about it, mate?" Lohan slagged you off. What are you going to do? I told them all, I ain't going to do nothing. You know why? Because I'm pretty confident that Kettering MP Philip Hollowbone will put all of his time and energy over the next few months into the Lindsay Lohan tweet instead of dealing with the direct fallout of Brexit. And he didn't let me down. 30th of June, Philip Hollowbone walks into the House of Commons and makes a speech and demands that Lindsay Lohan apologises by turning on the Kettering Christmas lights. I don't know about you guys, if someone slugs me off in public, my first move isn't to invite them over for Christmas. Said if she turned on the Kettering Christmas lights, she would redeem her political reputation. He said that, and then somehow walked out of there with his political reputation fully intact. That is amazing. The man is an absolute wizard. If I was Lohan, and I'd publicly dissed an entire town, and then they said, "Hey, why don't you come over one dark night?" Lohan was very busy around that time. Her Athens nightclub had just opened, which is called Lohan's Athens Nightclub. What's the name of Lohan's Athens Nightclub? Lohan's Athens Nightclub. She might not know where Ketman is, but she knows where her nightclub is. As soon as Lindsay Lohan had officially turned down the Ketman Christmas lights, obviously, I was waiting by the phone 24/7. I didn't get a phone call. They went straight from their number one choice of Hollywood star, Lindsay Lohan, straight down to number two choice, Heather from EastEnders. She snapped it up, Heather from EastEnders. I couldn't believe it. But then, to be fair, you don't get turning on the Ketman Christmas lights by being nice to Ketman like I've been doing. You get it by publicly slugging it off like Lohan did. I don't know what Heather from EastEnders did. I assume she burnt the Ketman flag on YouTube or something. With that in mind, I'd like to end the story with my bid to be Ketman Christmas Lights Turner Honour 2017. I'd like to end this story by saying Ketman is the worst place in the world. I hate it. There was 1 week in 2008 where the area around Ketman's train station smelt like hot sick. And as far as I know, no one in Ketman complained about it, which speaks volumes about the town as a whole. I hope everyone in Ketman gets headaches forever. All bad headaches. I hope Philip Hollowbone wakes up with a nosebleed tomorrow and he's like, oh, I'm going to clean it up, and then it never stops. Never, forever, and he never dies either. He always has a nosebleed and he's never dead. So he lives forever, for all time, and always for all that time has a nosebleed for the whole of it. For the whole of it. And it never stops, and he thinks, oh, I'll probably die soon because of all the blood I'm losing. But it never happens. And he's always unsure whether he's supposed to tilt his head back or tilt his head forwards. He doesn't know which one to do. So he spends 10 years with his head tilted back, and then another 10 years with his head tilted forward. He does that forever, all the time, all bloody, with a nosebleed. And on that day, I will turn on the Christmas lights.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pippa Evans.
A computer has been programmed by the University of Toronto to create the world's first manufactured Christmas song, news that was scoffed at by Simon Cowell, who's been manufacturing them for years. We are lucky enough to have one of these computers actually in the Now Show office. So we fed it some pages from the papers and programmed it with my voice to create the very first AI Now Show Christmas song. So I'll just press play on the laptop. Happy Christmas, Steve. Happy Christmas, Hugh. Happy Christmas, immigration crisis. Festive season's greetings. What a crazy year it has been. Obama's exit, the vote on Brexit, and Brad breaking up with Angeline. A war in Aleppo. Strikes are on the rise. Prince Harry brought a Christmas tree. Bacon causes cancer. So happy Christmas, one and all. Sweet dreams have all come true. Housing crisis, threats from ISIS. Happy Christmas to you. This time of year we think about all the love we have in our hearts. Peace on earth and power to men who grab women by their private parts. So happy Christmas, one and all, even though everybody died. Bowie died, and Victoria died, and Ronnie died, and Leonard died, and Gene Wilder died, and a partridge in a pear tree. Happy Christmas, one and all. Oh, happy Christmas. Happy Christmas to you.
So that's almost it, except we have asked our audience here what is the worst Christmas presents they ever received.
A set of Christmas tree fairy lights that didn't work. Who was it from? A friend, because he thought I was so mean I would appreciate the low running costs. What did you do with them? I've used them every year since.
A chew toy for a dog, along with the promise of maybe getting a dog next year.
A steam iron. Who was it from? My husband. What did you do with it? I ironed his shirts. We're divorced.
There's another lady here who says the worst Christmas present she ever received was a steam iron, also from her husband. And then it says, what do you do with it? And she said, I showed him how it works. Thank you for listening and happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. You've been listening to The Now Show, starring Steve Punch, Hugh Dennis, Susie Ruffle, Pippa Evans, Luke Kempner, James A. Kessler and Tim Harford. It was written by the cast with additional material from Gareth Gwynn, Gabby Hutchinson-Crouch, Jenny Laville, Catherine Bohart and Robin Morgan. The producer was Adnan Ahmed. It was a BBC Studios production.